Oh, I love to use my golf club. And I did not realize that. I can understand that. I'm exhausted. They're small. I wish they did. Go to another golf.
15-5 then, because that was the magic one, and then what did he do?
Yeah, I don't know. He just went 15-7 is what I was told. So I don't know the progression to get there. But John and I were pretty adamant that he needed to. John and I were pretty adamant that he needed to make those jumps into that goal.
Oh yeah, I told him the same thing. You have to get into a rhythm. We don't want to get tired.
Do we have Tyler just print this? The language that we have?
Well, I have mine. I passed it. I sent it out to everybody today.
I forgot mine on my desk.
I sent it out to everybody this morning.
Now I wonder if they're gonna.
I just made one where I adjusted though.
I'm only looking at what.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
I gotta read that.
Call this meeting to order. This is the 8th meeting between the Dickinson Education Association and the Dickinson School Board regarding the terms of the professional negotiated agreement. First order of business is to review pages 2 and 7.
A typical negotiation has 3 distinct goals: to reach a desired and durable result, to reach agreement efficiently and fairly, and to keep the relationship intact.
The steps of IBB: defining the issue, identify interests, develop opinions, develop objective criteria, judge options by criteria, develop a solution, put solution in writing.
Okay, thank you. You have all received a copy of the minutes from April 27th, 2017. And we need to consider approving those minutes.
We're good.
School board is- I sent it to Twyla so we can have her. Do you give that to-
Probably should have to some people don't.
Okay, the minutes of April 17th have been reviewed, approved, and signed. Signed tentative agreements, simplify leave language item A, that would move to a verbal tentative agreement. So, does somebody want to take the floor?
Mrs. Peterson is printing out the version of the language that we ended up with some back and forth and input, trying to make sure both parties were satisfied. So we're going to get that and then we can discuss it. So hopefully we'll get that done in just a couple minutes. I think it's pretty good. So she's going to get those copies for us. I guess while she's getting the copies, the one thing that we didn't put in there that the administration potentially mentioned was that when an appeal is made for additional hours to be donated, we were wondering if there should be a timelines, just so that as far as the office is concerned, they're not getting hours being donated strung out over months, I guess. So that was I think the only other comment that the administration had. I'm sorry, we don't have a copy.
So you're looking at in number 2, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on what are you suggesting there?
Dr. Sullivan, did you have an idea of what a reasonable time frame might be in which to get those responses back from the appeal?
Mrs. Ricks, I just put it out as a topic of discussion. It would seem reasonable that once the appeal for additional hours was sent out, that a week or 2 should be sufficient for people to decide whether or not they would like to make a contribution to the personal aid bank.
Okay, so something like just adding at the end of that sentence within 2 weeks.
I'm just wondering if it's necessary, because I'm thinking, of how often it would be used, and we're hoping it's not going to be used often, obviously, but we want it as an option.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had to go out to make contributions, and somebody was, say, 2 weeks and 2 days in and go, oh, I forgot to do that, and then makes a contribution, is it going to be sent back saying denied? I would hope not. And I would wonder how much work it actually is for administration to make that change. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that question either.
I don't know the answer to that question either. This is new territory.
Is it a matter of...
Since I've been here, I don't recall that we've requested for, well, we haven't requested for a donation to the sick leave bank.
That sick leave bank, does that have a time frame on it? For
Ms. Ricks, the sick leave bank is initiated upon the beginning of the school year.
okay, so there is a specific time at which that happens.
No, it just says, whenever the sick leave bank drops below 200 days, each participant will be assessed 1 additional sick leave day.
All
So
right.
that's an automatic assessment.
It's not a automatic assessment.
Yeah. Mr. Reed is not here to answer that question, so I'm not sure.
So are you just saying on number 2 at the very end, by filling out an additional personal leave form and returning it within 2 weeks, or?
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna hurt anything by putting it on there. So we can add it and.
Be done.
Mhm. I mean, we might not need it, or, you know what I mean? But
I'm guessing
you never
that,
know.
if somebody forgot to do it, I think probably enough other people would have done it, and they can just do it then at the end of the year. Does that make sense? Does that seem reasonable?
If they were to turn it in, like you said, a little bit late, is there a chance that it could just, yes, we want it in a timely manner so that they can be able to give personally, give hours to the person that's requesting it, but if it gets turned in late, I would think that they would be able to just, pull it out of that person's account and.
Maybe, I don't know. It
Yeah.
probably depends on who's administrating it, but I think it would be, like you said, also helpful so that whoever's requesting the hours will know whether or not they're there to be taken.
In a
If you
timely
have-
manner.
Yeah, if you have a
Exactly.
deadline, like, we'd like you to make the decision by this time.
Is a week too soon?
I would say yes.
Yes, I would say.
I would
So
say
2
yes.
weeks? Okay. I'm fine with 2 weeks.
Could we put in there with the understanding that no contribution will be denied? It's not like you would, if somebody turned it in late, then it's not gonna be denied or sent back and say, sorry, you're past the 2-week limit.
I just don't know how, the extent of use of it. Obviously, if we haven't put out an additional time for sick leave, that hasn't been abused and used
Yeah.
as much as it could be. So I'm wondering if we're jumping the gun a little bit, because we don't know what it's going to be like.
Go ahead.
And realistically, if somebody wanted to come in early December and say, hey, I want to donate to that personal leave bank, could they not do it at any point in time during the year? We've said, yeah, we can do it at the end of the year on your leave form, but if I wanted to go in December, could I donate?
I think.
Are we saying that's gonna make additional work?
It might. I think the bigger issue is just making sure that the bank functions, because it's a lot easier to make that decision at the end of the year and commit, yeah, I'm going to
Right.
give up these 2 hours, rather than waiting to see how the fall goes and knowing you can still donate in December. And I don't know, I just think it might help people to make a concrete decision if there's a deadline. But I'm not a teacher, so I'm not a teacher here.
Well, I don't see a problem on putting a time frame on there, because I don't think that even if I missed that time frame, I don't think they're going to turn it
Right.
down.
Probably not.
I would hope,
don't think
I would
either.
hope not.
But I think it's just helpful
Yeah.
for people to have a deadline in mind. I need to make a decision.
I don't see a problem with putting a time frame in there.
Okay.
Go
So,
ahead.
with filling out an additional personal leave form and returning it within 2 weeks? Okay, and then are we good with the rest of the language?
Do we want to?
Do we wanna, instead of,
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna say, instead of 2 weeks, do we wanna say 10 school dates?
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
want
Because
to
that,
school
yeah.
days.
that would be, if it was over Christmas break, for instance.
Yeah. Okay, 10 school days.
You wanna add that, we can sign it and get it off the plate.
All right. So good with this? Hand it to Twyla?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Just adding that, and then we should be able to sign that as a tentative agreement. Yes, please.
With those changes, yes.
So do we want to do that right this second, or we want to move on and just have it done by the end of the meeting to
That's
sign?
fine. We can have,
Okay.
let her do it. And we can continue on. Let's see if we can knock flexibility of leave off the table.
That sounds like a great idea to me.
Perfect.
With the understanding that currently, right now, sick leave is already being taken in 30-minute and 1-hour chunks. And it's being on the record now as, in minutes, as being the accepted policy. I know we have in the past negotiated down the personal leave from the half day to a quarter day. And so I'll open it up. Do we just want to leave it like that for the personal leave for the use of the subs? I'll open it up.
Did we talk about piloting this flexibility leave, right?
Mm-hmm. So if that's something that the group is still interested in, Dr. Sullivan did speak with Mr. Doctor and Mrs. Libis about piloting it for, I believe, 1 quarter. Is that correct, Dr. Sullivan? Next year, so in the fall, and then it would just be for that 1 quarter in
Yep.
those 2 schools, and then we could see how it goes and discuss it in negotiations next year.
So for both personal and sick leave, correct?
Sick leave is a
Or
done
just-
deal.
So
Sick
sick
leave's
leave
a-
already is.
Sick leave's a done deal.
Sick leave,
Okay,
we're
so this would
giving-
just be for personally to pilot it. And then, are all elementary schools and all schools doing it? Just,
It would just
Just
be
the
those
pilot.
2 schools
And
for
just
just
for
the
1
1
quarter.
quarter
okay,
to see how it works.
yeah. I do like the idea. Most of the time, when you take personal leave too, it's usually at the end of the day, and it's usually you need it for an hour or more anyway, but, you know, it would be nice to see what it would be like taking it in smaller increments. And the reason I say that is exactly what Dr. Sullivan said their concern was when you have a sub cancel and then now somebody's not getting service, now you're scrambling, trying to find, that concerns me too. It would be nice to be able to pilot that maybe and see how it works, I think. Just, I fear for, like if somebody takes a half an hour off and now, my pair has to go fill in there because the sub canceled. And now maybe some of I'm not just saying my students, but, it happens, it
Mhm.
does. It'd be nice to see and pilot, but maybe more than just 2 schools, I guess, I don't know.
And it's not a pilot.
True, then it's not pilot, then we're
Right.
just doing it.
And I know there was some
It's very
concern
true.
expressed about fairness, but it's only for 1 quarter,
Mhm.
so I don't view that as a
If we go-
huge fairness issue.
If we go trimesters, would it be 1 full trimester then? Because that hasn't been decided yet, correct? So it'd just be the,
Well, just for the information of the audience and the board doesn't even know this trimesters has been being discussed by the teachers for a number of months
Mhm.
now. And visiting with Mrs. Catherine today, she indicated that she thought a decision would be made in the next couple of weeks. And so in answer to your question, yes.
okay, okay. Yeah, maybe piloting would be a good idea, just to see what, instead of just jumping in and saying, yeah, let's do it, see how it works and get feedback and then.
And if I can provide one clarification
Oh,
just
sorry.
for the audience, the trimester discussion is specific to grades K-5.
Yeah.
We're fine with either way, either leaving it how it is or doing the pilot. We've, made the arrangements so the pilot can happen, but it's kind of up to the group what you want to do. So Sarah saying that she would like that. Is that the consensus?
That's fine with
To,
me.
I mean, it would be nice just to see what the feedback would be, because like right away you think, oh, that'd be awesome to be able to take in smaller increments, but at the same time, you gotta make sure that your building is being taken care of.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it'd be a good idea to maybe do that.
Okay. So is that a tentative agreement then, that we will do a pilot of
Yep.
the smaller increments of personal leave and
Correct.
take flexibility leave off now? Okay.
Do we need to have that in a written format, or do we want to add language to the leave
Should we just do a
memorandum of
Thank you,
understanding?
I can't say memorandum today. Memorandum of understanding?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Do you think Twyla's that good, so you can get that done by the end of the meeting?
I don't know, that's asking a lot.
We can say that.
Okay. Well, I think it would be reasonable to expect that we could have that to sign at the next meeting. Which will be our last one, right? Right. Okay.
I feel like we're getting a lot done now.
All right.
If I can interject.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here's these, I don't know, on the flexibility of leave, or excuse me, on the
Is it short?
simplify leave language.
Take a look at it.
What?
Want to take a look at it? You want to sign this one?
Her signature is prettier than yours.
I know. It is. It is.
Okay, would it be okay to go to school calendar? Okay. We had discussed this, where did it go? Oh, right here. And I know what we kind of landed on was our discussion, a combination of the Grace Day, days at the end of the year, identify more days in calendar. So, in discussing this, maybe a compromise that would satisfy all interests would be to identify 4 school days in the calendar year and then plan to use the Grace Day on day 5.
I would like to bring some information to light as well, though, before we make that compromise. If we look at the fact that we put in 30 minutes more every day, above and beyond what the state requires for us. The state requires in grades 1 through 5, the 5.5 hours. We put in 6. Grades 6 through 8 is 5.5. We put in 6, which then goes, now that we're going to that middle school, it did go up to, look at his schedule. They're putting in the 6 hours. So grades 6 through 12 will be 6 hours. And we put in 6.5. So if you accumulate that 30 minutes every day that we have added, it comes out to be 14.58 days extra when you accumulate that time. And then if we happen to be so lucky as to have a kiddo that stays with us from 1st grade through 12th grade, that is an extra 170.51 days of time that comes into it. So when looking at how much extra time, which I and I'm not saying that putting a 4th day in the calendar, but I'm also saying that, you know, we looked at different things that we needed to respectful to taxpayers because they need to know that we're putting in that time following the law while we're actually doing daily above what we have to. Allowing teachers to make plans according to the calendar. The fact that since 1970 something we haven't even had to come close to using 5 days. I think we need to look at, you know, maybe a possibility of that grace day after day 3. And if we have to have a 4th day, then it goes on the end of our school year. I mean, we're already putting in the time, and I also think, you know, the calendar committee has done a lot of work on the calendar already, and we did put in that 3rd day. You know, the calendar committee took the suggestions that needed 3 days and put that 3rd day into the calendar so that we would already have it above and beyond our 5-year rotation of days used. And I guess I'm looking at it going, the possibility is there, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Weather happens, and we can't predict it, but
So I think I expressed last time, the grace day is a tough issue for the school board because of 2 things. Our classified staff who expect to make a certain amount of money in a year and who essentially take a day deduct if we're out of school or just miss a day. And secondly, because of that kind of contract feeling that we have with our taxpayers when we say this is what we're providing to your children, and it is beyond the state minimum, and I think our staff wouldn't want to be doing the minimum, and I think everyone's probably very proud of that.
Mhm.
But we also want to be reasonable, and we understood that if we identified every non-student contact day in the calendar, then no one could really make solid plans, and that would be very upsetting and frustrating. So I think it was a big deal for the school board to say we're willing to put the grace day in the plan, because it certainly has never been in the plan before, and if we had to use it, it wouldn't be our favorite thing. But we also want to be reasonable about it. Sorry, this is very positional now. I don't like that. But so I think that's where I was hoping we could get the 4 and then put the grace day in the plan.
Can the 4th day come at the end of the calendar year and not within the calendar, you know, of our days off? Because I'll just go my position. Those days off are, 1, needed just for mental health, because I don't take a lot of time off in the school year. And 2, those days off give me time to catch up on paperwork that I have to do for the state or that sort of thing. So yes, it's a day off and we have no students, but and so for you to, if we end up having to do a snow day, a 4th one within the calendar itself, that takes, you know, and sometimes you just need those mental health days. Those breaks really
Mr. Schobinger and I sat down
help.
and looked at the calendar for next year, and there is not a day in there except for President's Day that would be eligible, because your parent-teacher comp days are already spoken for, and then your other ones are already spoken for as storm days.
Okay.
Here's the other thing. A lot of people put a lot of time into this, correct?
Mm-hmm.
If I were one of those people that put time into this, and we said, okay, here's 3 days, got it, and we changed it, I'd be saying, I'm done on the calendar committee, I will not be on a committee again. So maybe this is something that, okay, we have the 3 days, if something catastrophic happens and we need more, you know what, we'll deal with it when it comes. And maybe the next time around on the calendar committee, we try to find that 4th day. Because I would not feel right after, I would not feel right changing it right now. We have a hard time getting people to be on committees. I would feel like whatever I said is not, whatever we did, wasted time.
We had the same discussion that we wouldn't want to put anything in language for that reason. We appreciate that we have a calendar committee and we try to respect the decisions that they make on that committee. And I think, we showed that this year. We approved a variety of calendars because that's what teachers wanted, and I think that's great. So I think what we were hoping for was maybe a memorandum of understanding that in the future we'll have 4 days and then the grace day. And the calendar committee would be the ones in charge of assigning those 4 days.
Into the 17-18 calendar, is that what you're saying?
I don't know. We could talk about that. I think that was the initial idea, just because, the whole reason this is on the agenda is because there wasn't a solid plan, or because we were really concerned about what happened this year. And so we got that 3rd day, but because there was an indication from the DEA that our language as it stands in the contract doesn't allow the school board basically to fix that situation, we just don't want to end up in a situation where we're trying to fix a problem and then we end up with very unhappy employees.
Okay.
So,
But
Mrs.
all
Rick?
of this, go ahead.
Is there a way that we could just do language that would say that the calendar will have 3 snow days? If a 4th is needed, it will be understood that that 4th day will be tacked on to the end of the school year. If a 5th day, because really what you want is a plan. So
Mhm.
then if a 5th day is needed, we will utilize the grace day.
And if a 6th day is needed, we'll have to continue.
Continue
And
on,
at the end of the year.
if 6+ days are needed,
Mhm.
those will be
Mhm.
added to the end of the school year.
I think that would probably be okay. When you say tacked onto the end of the year, are you saying it would replace the teacher work day
No,
for those who have
that
one?
would keep
Bump it back.
bumping back. So like this year, the teacher work day, we were supposed to be out on the, if we didn't have the snow day,
Mhm.
we would have been out on Wednesday. Last contact day
Right.
was Wednesday, teacher day was going to be Thursday. Now we have last contact day is Thursday, teacher day is Friday. So let's say if we had to have another one, last contact day would have been Friday,
Mhm.
teacher day would have been Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so forth and so on until we make up those days if we happen to have a catastrophic storm that,
Mhm. I think we could live with that.
Yes.
That would be a plan, and that would be 4 days, and then the grace day, and so I think that might be a great solution. That would satisfy all interests.
I think so.
So
Yeah.
is it
Yeah,
okay if that's in a memorandum of understanding then, that that's the plan, and then we'll have it written down that that's the plan? And then we don't have to
That's-
mess with the language?
In the contract.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your,
Either that or a gentleman's agreement. I mean, it's we just want the assurance that, that the 3 days will be in there, and if that 4th day is needed, it's at the end of the year,
Mhm.
which
Is-
theoretically would have
Would
been
have
what we would have anyway, because 175 days has to happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We understand that.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get something written up to that effect to sign next time also as memorandum of understanding.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Fay.
Discussion of class size and caseload based upon what it looks like for next year. Class size and caseload is pretty well already in place. Would that be correct? Is there any plans for any more hirings that we know of in positions? Any extra?
I believe that is always a moving target based on our enrollment, and that Mr. Reed and Dr. Sullivan look at that carefully and come to the budget committee when the numbers are ticking up high for certain grades, and it looks like we would need another section. Dr. Sullivan, do you want to make any further comments about that question?
Mrs. Ricks, that's a correct assessment of how we have had to address increasing student enrollment. I mean, I remember a time I think we hired a first or kindergarten teacher 2 days before the school year started a few years ago over at Lincoln. And so it is always a moving target. Just so that everybody's fully informed, right now we do have, I believe, 5 vacancies in K-5 that we're still trying to fill. And so those are existing vacancies and would not be additional positions.
Just for the sake of discussion and getting into the minutes a little bit, what are our class sizes currently in the grade school? And yeah, that's probably the most important, is that at early K or early grades.
I can.
I'm sorry, can you clarify
Just,
the
you know,
recommended class size?
No, what they look for next year. What are they going to be next year? Are they going to be 27, 28, or less?
Well, we always aim for less.
I know. I know what we aim for.
I know.
Unfortunately, sometimes we miss.
We do, and I know that
Out
we have some this year that are over the recommended class size. I can think of one teacher in particular at Prairie Rose. I think she's 4 over, and so that is not our objective,
Right.
to go 4 over.
Absolutely.
We always try to aim for the recommended class size that we have for guidelines.
I believe last time Mr. Reeves showed us the projections, the kindergarten classes at least were all kind of sitting right at the 20.
Right.
And so I think unless we can't fill positions, we'll at least start out the year with class sizes right around those recommended numbers.
And is there, it's probably, is there a way to request, like if, we don't have it in the budget to hire another teacher or something, if your class size is 27, 28 and your building doesn't have enough para help, is there a way for a building to request an additional hire for that? And then maybe that could help with some of that. I don't know if there is a process to go through.
There's
or whatever.
definitely a process. I don't know exactly what it is. Dr. Sullivan, what happens?
We do have guidelines that we utilize that we put in place a few years ago during the boom to try and address that. And don't hold me to this, but I think that we haven't looked at it for a couple of years now. I think that the guideline is if the class size goes 3 over, a person could request a half-time para. Now, having said that, it was easier to address that when our funding wasn't frozen by the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to be very clear that it's a guideline, and we're facing some difficult budgets in the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand that. I just didn't know if there was a way to go about it.
And I know in some of our discussions, Mrs. Ricks, you were talking about a plan that the school board would put into place that would help to address this as well.
The school board would eventually like to have a more concrete strategic plan with timelines in it. And so, and I think more concrete goals of what we, want things to look like moving forward. And so when I was discussing that, I'm hoping that, a few years down the road, when we're at negotiations, we'll be able to say, this is what we would like to do, this is how we would like to spend money, and be able to kind of I guess, help everyone understand where money is going more, you know, like maybe we're not gonna give us big raises this year because we're going to hire some more teachers or whatever it is. Obviously, the details are not our decision. There are committees who make those decisions and put those plans together, but it's the, I think, intention of the school board to move in that direction, to have a more concrete plan in place.
I mean, there's not.
It was a discussion topic.
It was a discussion of topic, and, I mean, I know there's, you know, of course, the special ed side of things is
Mhm.
always looking at case load and higher numbers that seem to keep increasing.
Right.
And it's not like you guys have, I mean, we have that recommended number for a classroom, but there isn't that optimal number or that recommended number as far as a caseload or goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's, and this is probably not something that's going to get solved right away, obviously, because we need to have a plan in place of what can we do to help those that have larger numbers with the continually adding more paperwork from the state and
Right.
all of that side of things as well. But as long as when you are coming up with your plan, you also not just look at class sizes for the general education, but also caseload sizes for the special ed.
And we have been doing some research about that. We looked at caseload, weighted caseload type plans from different places around the country. We met with NDSBA about this issue. So far, we haven't been able to find the magic bullet. The numbers we were looking at were not financially feasible with our current structure. So it's definitely something that's on the radar, I think, and it's going to be one of those puzzles, I think, that as a district we're going to have to figure out. So I wasn't sure, you know, what you, because I know that the intention wasn't to get language from this topic, so I wasn't sure what you needed to feel like your intent had been satisfied, I guess, with this topic, or...
I wasn't sure with the class sizes. I already know that it's not something that we can, I mean, put into language,
Mhm.
but I think there needs to be that open thought process that if somebody were to come and petition for an extra 2 days on their contract as a specialist because of an astronomical amount of work that came at the end of the year. I don't know, just little thoughts that you guys should be aware of or be thinking, how are we going to handle that? Because
Right.
I think all of us are finding that our caseloads continue to increase, not decrease.
You know, unfortunately, it's a fact that more and more is getting put onto the plates of teachers, and nothing's coming off. And I look at the especially the elementary school teachers who are literally with their check marks. Now you add 5 or 6 more kids, and how many more check marks is that? That they would be doing, and that's more time.
Mhm.
How many is that?
And testing.
Yeah, and testing. And how much time does that take away from what they can, the impact they can
Teaching.
have in teaching?
I know that, talking about the general ed teachers, they do feel overwhelmed by increase in their class sizes, because at the elementary side of things, they have to do 4 grade checks per quarter for the standards, each standard. Well, if 3 grade
Mhm.
checks?
Three per standard for,
4 times a year.
4 times a
Yeah.
year, yeah. So, I mean, you take that
Per
and then
student.
per student, benchmarking, I mean, you add all of those things to it, and it seems like they're doing more and more of that and less of that instructional time. And then you add more kids, that's more time away from the instructional too.
And I guess the intent of adding this as a discussion of class size and caseload is, unfortunately, oftentimes many teachers believe that the only time that anything can get heard is at the negotiations table. And we'd like to see that change as well, so that there should be some communication that is there. So we wanted to make sure that we could discuss the caseloads and class sizes so that their thoughts and their concerns are heard.
Absolutely. I think it's important that everyone feels that they have a voice and that it can be heard. And so I discussed this with Dr. Sullivan. He said, is there a different venue for this discussion to happen? Couldn't really think of a committee that this would be appropriate for. However, Dr. Sullivan said that he is always happy to meet, and I can be at the meeting too if that's the desire. And then we can discuss this issue, and I don't know, maybe in the future we'll have a labor management committee, maybe we'll have more regular meetings with DE leadership. I don't know, but I think that there's other options, and we certainly don't want it to feel like the only way to be heard is to bring it up at negotiations. So.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of a cool idea to have like a DEA leadership meeting, or you can just kind of talk about stuff.
Well, I haven't run this past Lyle, but
Uh-oh.
and I know that and I would as a member of DEA, I would ask how open the school board is having a agenda item as an update from the DEA or an update from the teachers as a monthly agenda item, so that line of communication remains open.
Welcome it.
I think that would be the general sentiment.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Item checked off?
Item
or-
checked off.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Correct.
can we go to item N, assigned and unassigned time?
Item in.
Where did we land with that after you guys had time to look at the schedules?
Well, I do have a few concerns, I guess. And I'll be kind of going around a little bit, but, so in looking, first of all, in the scheduling or whatever with the minutes of unassigned, I will apologize, the Roosevelt one is mine. But I was running out of room, and so it's not a 20-minute recess, so we're at 110 minutes according to it, but I was running out of room and I didn't want to put 2:15 bathroom break, 2:20, yeah, I just skipped to 2:20, so that's probably where that came from, but anyway, so it's a 15-minute recess, so that would put us at 110 minutes. And I know last time I was like, I never had considered I can see how on paper it looks like, oh, recess, your kids are gone, but when, in the elementary, every K through 5 teacher, when a kid is gone, you have to reteach them. You can't just give them a worksheet and say, okay, go to new study hall. You have to reteach them, otherwise they will not learn the material. And our opportunity time is different than theirs. When a kid at the high school is gone, they go to their opportunity time, they get a slip. Our opportunity time, we're teaching guided reading. And one day a week you can use it for math intervention, but it is for guided reading, and you will not get your guided reading groups in if you don't teach guided reading. And so I will show you, as of yesterday, I have 172 absences in my room alone, and that's on average. So 172 times I have been reteaching my kids. So that is why I was pointing out that recess, when my kids that were here, that recess is for them. It's not for us. It's a break for the kids. I'm reteaching my kids. Otherwise, you're already, I'm either doing it at my lunchtime or that recess. I can't make a kid stay after school. Can't make parents bring them in early in the morning. So and it's not just me, it's all elementary teachers. So to reteach any kid that is gone, they're giving up unassigned time already. And so that is why it's really hard when we're already doing it. I know it looks like on paper like it's a break, but it's not. And so 172 times, right? And yes, some of them were probably gone on the same day, but that 15-minute recess is not going to catch them up from what they missed in one day. So I am literally every day, and if it's not with somebody that was gone, it's reteaching somebody that didn't understand something. And it's either lunch or recess. So when you're giving up that time, that's why that 40-minute prep is so important, because that is the only one we can really count on. And that's why super block is such a problem, because every 6th day you don't get that. So it feels like I said, more kids, more things. We're already doing this, giving up unassigned time, and we haven't said anything about it. No one really probably knew that, but we're doing it every day. And then now we're getting this prep taken away. So it just feels like we're giving up all this other time, and it's really hard to prioritize your family when you're constantly bringing stuff home. So, you reteach during your unassigned time, and now I don't get a prep time either, because that 40 minutes they're in gym and music, you cannot pull them out of that. They have to be there for that. So that's the only time we actually get. And with all this, the new curriculum and things, we need time to prepare. I mean, I have 5 reading groups. That's 5 preps that right there, just to prep for, and that's just reading. So obviously that 40 minutes, and I mean, we have meetings in the morning, meetings after school. So yeah, you get your prep in the morning and after school every once in a while too, but a lot of it is outside of your contract time, and that's why that 40 minutes during our day is so crucial. And so that was a concern of mine, because if now that afternoon recess is supposed to be prep time, when are we supposed to reteach these kids that are gone? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something where we have to request, parents bring them in early, or, because we have a lot of after-school programs that our kids go to for help too, but I need to be, so I'm concerned if that's prep time. It's not really, but maybe some teachers use it as prep, and if they do, that's great. But then again, there's miscommunication too, because I've received 2 emails now from teachers that are very concerned and they must use it as prep, and so I'm sure they reteach during their lunchtime or something, but we have received 2 emails now that their principal has told them next year they are looking into their schedule and they are taking that recess out. So if that's considered prep time, how can that be? They're taking it out, and now if you want to go outside, you can take them out. But it doesn't make sense to me. So somewhere there's a miscommunication, obviously. So do we still need to clarify it, or you know what I mean? Like if we're taking that recess out and they're not getting that prep anymore, they have to take their kids out. Like, I'm very concerned about that, because then I'm gonna have to stay at lunch every day to reteach my kids, and I usually leave sometimes during lunch. So it's like, and it was said in the email that it has been talked about at more than one building, and that concerns me, because I don't know when I had a student miss almost my entire geometry unit. If you don't reteach them, they're not gonna learn it.
Right.
So it's really concerning to me that it's been talked about that that's getting taken out too, especially if it is now considered prep time. Isn't that supposed to be unassigned minutes? So then, you see what I'm saying? It's still inconsistent amongst the buildings, I think.
I think that's something that will have to be discussed with the administrators. I would say if you are removing a recess and then that's bringing your total unassigned minutes below an average of 90, then that time needs to be put onto the prep or something. So I think as a school board, we want to stand behind our contract. Our contract says 90 minutes of unassigned time, which right now the working definition from our perspective means that you don't have students assigned to you during that time. So I think since it's not something that is set in stone, and hopefully good communication can work through those schedule issues with principals. And I would say the same about reteaching students over recess. If that's the only time you have to do it, maybe that's, a discussion to have with your team? What are you guys doing to solve this problem, or to talk to your principal? Hey, I'm having a hard time getting my unassigned time because I'm having to reteach the students. You know, what are your thoughts on this? But I think at the macro level, it's our job to make sure that the contract's being honored, and so right now with the schedules that we have, as far as we can, you know, see and what we control is not the right word, but what's appropriate for us to review, it looks like the contract's being honored. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but this says we're taking an average, and so if I'm getting this right, we're saying, okay, you have 110 minutes a day, so then it's okay to take this 40-minute prep from you because you're over your minutes, but in the contract, it's a school day. So on super block day, it is not being followed because we're below.
It says an average of 90 minutes. And so...
In the average day,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. In an average day, right. And so when you average it across, you have the 90 minutes. And I'm not trying to belittle the frustration or the struggle,
No,
you know, I can absolutely imagine that it's rough not to have that 40-minute prep on the super block day, but I think, you know, as a school board, we did a book study on PLCs. We've read the research, and so there's pretty strong evidence that that's really good for schools if we have strong PLCs, and you guys need time to be able to do that. And so I think right now that's the solution that's been come up with to allow that time to exist. So I don't know. I
So
feel like
what-
this is where we landed last time too.
Mrs.
but
Ricks, what you're
yes.
saying is, if I understand this little chart, that, let's just say Roosevelt has 110 minutes a day unassigned.
Mhm.
So then if you take away on super block day 40 of those minutes,
Mhm.
that's only 70 though.
So super block is every 6th day.
So every 6th day they have 70 minutes of unassigned time.
So if you multiply 110 times 6, you get 660. And then if you subtract out the 40 that gets used for super block, you're at 620. Right? Am I doing this right? And then if you divide that 620 by 6, that should be the average number of unassigned minutes you have left. Which is still more than 90.
I understand, like I said, I understand on paper that it looks like this. And we've talked a lot about low morale, and the low morale in K through 5 will not be fixed. Because every day we are giving up unassigned time all the time to reteach kids and to do that. That's the reality of it. And here we are sitting, trying to figure out 40 minutes that we should get. And so we're giving up time all the time, even though it doesn't say it on paper. That's the reality. And so that's what's happening. Even though it's not on paper, I get that. And I know, you look at paper, you're like, oh, 110 minutes, wow, that's a lot of time. I get that. But that's not reality, and that's not what's happening. And so that's why there's low morale, because you go into teaching because you care. You care about kids, you care about family, and you can't prioritize your own. It makes it really hard. I don't even have kids, and it's easier for me to go in at night, you know. I can't imagine if I did. I really couldn't. But that's why there's low morale, and I need that to be known, because you're always giving up your time during your day to do these things, and then you feel like you get something taken away. Like, I'm lucky if I get to go to the bathroom during that 15-minute break. I'm pretty excited. So it's, yes, on paper it looks like this, but it's not reality. And that's where the difference is, you know, and that's why, and it's understandable why there's low morale, because you feel like you're constantly giving, and now here we go again, getting something taken. That prep has to come somewhere, and now it's going to be on your own time. And so that's where it's hard. And I do understand what you're saying too. I get that.
I guess.
But I just want it to be known that it's not.
I guess what I'm hearing is Mrs. Rick says that based upon the information that is received at the school board, it shows that we're meeting it. So the option then would be that if it's not happening, we have to go to the grievance procedure. And I think that's.
For the schools that were told about
if
the
it-
recess, you mean?
Yeah, if that's.
I mean, I would hope it wouldn't get there. I'd hope that you know, could work things out. But
Well done.
I guess, you know, the topic that was brought was to define assigned and unassigned time. And even if we defined unassigned time as time that was completely non-directed, on paper, we'd still be meeting it. Does that make sense? And so the topic isn't going to fix the problem that you're describing.
It's kind of off topic, but I do know we probably can't close this topic today either, because I know Mr. Miller had voiced with me about the middle school schedule. He had tried looking at the minutes or something, and he had something to mention too, so maybe, we won't be able to, check it off the list today, but I do know he had something to say about the junior high school, and I looked at that schedule and I had no idea what it was foreign to me,
That's
so I
agreed.
couldn't really help out there, but. So I need to tell the teachers that emailed me that to visit about, I guess I'm not really understanding.
I'm hearing both sides of the story, and.
But, like, the principals had told them that they were looking into, because they were short pairs or something, so then they were going to make the teachers take them out.
Then it becomes assigned time, would
But
it
then
not?
it becomes assigned time, so then
Can I
they're.
perhaps save some time here?
Yes, thank you.
Please do.
I just got emailed, so I'm not really 100% sure. It's
I'm not aware of 2 buildings.
oh,
I was aware of one.
okay,
And I did visit with that principal.
okay.
And there have been exactly the discussions that were described at the table about shortening it, about having the teachers do it. And there was some research discussed with the teachers about how the shorter periods actually are beneficial because they prevent problems and they prevent disciplinary issues on the playground. But in visiting with the principal, the indication that I received is that there's no intention to shorten the recess, that it was a conversation about what if,
Okay.
and that the teachers have been told that 15 minutes will, I think it was 15, that the recess will be on their schedule for at least 15, and she just doesn't know where that will be located at this time.
Oh, so is the teacher taking the students out, or is?
My understanding is the teacher will not be taking the students
Okay,
out.
okay. That was the.
Yeah, that was the
concern. And I
email
don't
I
know if it was
received.
2 buildings, she
Yeah,
just had
so-
mentioned that it was talked about amongst more than one building, and that's where I wasn't sure if it was 2 or 3.
And I can follow up on that and express to the principal that there needs to be some clarification, so to work to eliminate the misunderstanding.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so we need to wait for Mr. Miller because he
He had
might.
mentioned something about he was trying to look at the minutes or something, so maybe,
He has a concern about.
yeah, I would feel more comfortable when he's here,
Right.
just to
Okay.
bring the middle school into account.
Are you feeling comfortable, like you said what you need to say, and
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
I think. What's next?
That's what all revolves around money.
I know, so the question is, do we want to try and lump these kind of together and identify what our interests are in regard to money, basically? So we can figure out how to move forward on that?
Which one are we looking at? Sorry.
Everything else?
Oh. Money, the fun one.
Everything else is kind of in money.
Okay.
Well, you guys are kind of the holders of the purse strings, so what are your thoughts?
Well, I was hoping that today we could identify the interests that the parties have in how to spend money and/or just, you know, I kept going back to that question of what a fair wage is. So I guess I want to hear what both parties have to say so that I even know where to start, and then we can brainstorm a bunch of options and eliminate ones that don't work. So, you know, we can at least narrow it down before we get to actual numbers, because it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of time running scenarios about a flat salary if no one's interested in that, or if you know. So I think it would just help me to better understand, you know, what the interest is for potentially changing the index or all of those issues. So I don't know if there's a way to kind of say that succinctly, because I think maybe changing the index is an option under the category of salary schedule. Does that make sense? Because it's a way in which money could be distributed, and it would answer certain interests. And so that's how I had envisioned talking about it today, but I don't know what your thoughts were.
On lane 7 and beyond, is that what we're talking about? Or
With
just
everything else is money.
And, yeah.
Well, you know, I've expressed plenty on lane 7 and beyond. You know, and I think the big one is next year we'll have 10 teachers that go from 6 to 7. If we do nothing, let's say we have very little to move on the base, those 10 people will have an average, will make an average of $368 more next year. Now, if I'm in my 6th year, I might be about have 2 kids, and with insurance, I may go backwards.
Okay.
I don't feel that's right. And I know we have done a lot to raise that base up here. We've done a ton. Next year, 10 people will move from 6 to 7. The year after, 10 more move from 6 to 7. That's if we don't hire anybody else. And then I think it's 8, and then it's 16 and 21. So it does affect all of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think we need to get rid of that 0.5% and 1%, because it's not enough. I mean, geez, that can't even get me to Walmart for 1 trip of diapers.
I'd like to be able to write these interests down. Is that okay if we do
Sure.
that?
Yeah.
It just helps me to be organized and think about it. Are we able to maybe take a picture of one of those and figure out some room? I think we've got to,
This one's done.
yeah. Yeah, we can erase that one.
I do like too, like you said, eventually it will affect all the teachers. If they stay, you will get that. I mean, if we don't have a lot to put on the base now, at least the teachers that were here and gave up money for the beginning teachers in the past, they'll be getting it now, but it will affect everybody too, eventually, as they move down.
Should we just label the issue salaries and basically all about that?
Sure.
Okay. The issue is, everybody wants to pay a fair salary. Do you want to restate your interest? Do you want me to summarize it for you?
Thank you.
However you want to put it out there.
I think, well, tell me if I'm right.
Yep, go
Okay.
ahead.
I think Mr. Schobinger, the interest he just expressed was that he doesn't want teachers going from 6 to 7 to go backwards. Is that basically?
Well, not necessarily go backwards. That's not, a 1% is not fair.
Okay.
It's not fair when everybody else is at 2.5 or 3.
But you're saying it's not fair because potentially with rising healthcare costs, it could actually be a
Well, that's
case.
one of the reasons,
Okay.
yes.
What's the other reason that it's not fair?
Because of
'Cause it's
1%.
different?
One of the reasons that I feel for a matrix and indexes is so that if we have situations where we can't add a ton of money to the basement,
Mhm.
and in the past, we've been able to do that, that at least everybody has their vertical step that's fair and even for everybody.
Okay, so you're looking at fair as being equality among
Sure.
opportunity, I guess, for teachers, right? Because the steps and lanes are slightly different depending on where you are educationally, but,
Right.
but they're all fairly uniform.
But steps vertically are not. And that's the only vertical step that's not.
Okay, so the interest is that your interest is to be, I don't even know how to say that. Equal? I mean, what?
Sure, equal would be fine.
Okay, and to ensure that the step would offset the cost of healthcare.
Well, healthcare is just an example.
Right.
I mean,
But I think that's would be the main issue this year. I don't think
Probably.
we're looking at a rise in cost of living necessarily.
I mean, are we, Mrs. Ricks, aren't we looking at creating a fair salary so that step 7 is equal to other vertical steps?
But
Is that-
that's, well, yeah, so I was trying to ascertain what, so I mean, I have a different opinion and I can talk about that, but that's okay. We want to put everybody's interests on the board, so. So the
Are we looking
interest-
at interest or options?
Interest right now.
Okay.
Mhm. So the interest was to be equal in the way teachers move through the salary schedule.
Just put equal in movement. We'll go from there.
Okay, and the other interest identified was that pay would offset rising costs. Is that fair?
A would offset rising costs. Explain.
So you're saying the increase in pay should be more than the increase in costs?
Am I saying that?
Yeah. If you're not, then help me out.
I'm just saying it should be equal throughout.
Okay, that's.
There's going to be times where gonna be better, other times it's going to be worse. We can't predict what's going to happen, you know, in next year or the year after.
Okay. I think for us, one of our interests is to be competitive in wages.
Competitive in what?
In wages.
On wages.
Yeah. To be fiscally responsible. And to be sensitive to the current economic climate. You can abbreviate that, but just to be sensitive to the community and what's happening economically. Any other entries? No? Okay. All right. Ready for options? Okay.
Well, obviously, one of the options is to fix the matrix.
There's multiple ways to do that.
Exactly.
I'm still contending that it's not broken. That's okay. We can agree to disagree.
How
So-
about we say equalize the indexing?
Well, really what you're
This is
asking.
the brainstorming session?
Yes, yeah, this is the brainstorming part.
Where they're just supposed to be listed and not debated?
Right. Sorry.
Well, you're all doing it.
I was just reaffirming the words. You said it's not broken, so I said equalize that.
Well, the exact words were fix the matrix. You can write that and I'll shut up about it.
I'm just gonna shut up now.
Okay. We could. It's a very specific interest to be equal and movement through the salary schedule. Well, we could just throw out any options, right? And then we'll figure out if they match with interests. We can put money on the base. So we're talking about salaries.
Mrs. Ricks?
Yes.
And maybe just, I'm not wrapping my head around this. And I understand it all has to deal with money, but putting money on the base when the interest to begin was just lane 7 and beyond, like that's the topic.
Top,
But then we changed it to pay fair salary, so now are we just going to combine all the rest of them into one?
If that's
Well,
okay.
we don't
because-
have to.
Yeah.
You know, it just all the rest of them deal with money.
Right.
And I know in collaborative bargaining in the past, you know, it's a case of there's so much money, how are we gonna deal with this?
Right.
And I guess, you know, that's, yeah, I'm having a tough time wrapping around without knowing the number, honestly.
Well, so I'm surprised that that's the only interest from you guys right now, which, I mean, it helps me understand that that's extremely important to you, if that's
Well,
the interest in regard
that's
to
where I'm
salaries. Okay, so
struggling.
you have other interests.
Well, I would have other interests, but right now my brain is focused on that one topic, Lane 7 and beyond, and what can we do for that topic, not looking as a whole with salaries. This is separate from what are we going to put on the base or not put on the base or add to this or add to that. I was just thinking of it as
Two separate issues.
two separate issues. In my mind, I have it as two separate issues, and that's where maybe I'm not wrapped around this all the way yet.
And I threw it together as soon as competitive salaries, fiscally responsible, you know, as
Just
all
not
one
one.
big thing. How can we take care of it
As one.
all together?
Because the
Okay,
option.
I just had to, I was still
I-
seeing it as two separate things, so now that I know that that's where the discussion is heading, I can just,
It's kind of like the calendar one that we did in some ways, because the options that we would eventually maybe develop would be pretty complex. Like, we're going to adjust the index in this way and put money on the base so that we're still competitive in wages, but now we've also met the equal movement through the salary schedule. So, yeah, because it all costs money and all that money exists together.
I get it now, but in my
Yeah.
mind, I was defining the topic, which the topic was Lane 7, so I just hadn't moved to the fact that we were lumping everything else together. And that, I was just clarifying for myself, because I was,
And I think in all fairness, we're not
Confused.
getting rid of it. We're not, you know, just like frozen step in 2009, we're not getting rid of it. We're not saying that's a done deal. But it's.
we're just putting it all.
We have to figure out, and being the only one who really kind of went back to that aspect of having a number and saying, okay, what are we gonna do with it?
Mhm.
Because if we spend it here, then it's gonna go, something else has gotta suffer, you know? So we as a group have to kind of figure out all together, because when we start chipping away, if we wait
Yeah.
till salary schedule to the very end, we may have spent all the money.
Right.
So.
I get it.
With that, this is just salary, not benefits, right? Or do we bring up, it says.
Wages and
Well, are we
benefits.
talking?
And wages and benefits are part of it.
So we're
Okay.
talking like suggestions on like dental insurance, like stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like, is that going
is a
under
good
here?
question.
Well, I didn't know, because I would love to see that,
Throw it
but
up
I
there
didn't
as
know
an
if this was
option.
where I was supposed to bring it up or not.
Oh.
Because it has to do with money, and if we
Right.
are putting money
Yeah.
somewhere, I just didn't know, because
Yeah.
on my mind, I thought wages, benefits, like, would be like health insurance type stuff.
Mhm.
I thought that was a different
'Cause it
issue,
all
but it's
costs
all
money.
money,
It's all
yeah,
money.
so.
Well, I mean, we're
Do
all
we-
wading through this together, so sure.
I don't know, is that where we would bring something like that up, or?
Pay fair salary and benefits.
No.
We just changed the issue.
Well, no, I mean, it could be a total different issue, I just was
Well, no,
wondering if
because
that's
it
where I
all
bring it
costs
up.
money, and so
Exactly. I didn't know.
How about, the issue is fair compensation, maybe? I don't know.
I know, I don't know.
But
we want
I
to
think
throw
we
up
know where-
dental insurance on the
Or-
option.
Options, dental insurance.
If it doesn't belong here, we can totally.
No,
take
you're-
it off. I wasn't sure. It cost money, and I wasn't sure if we were doing benefits along with salary, or if we're just talking salaries. I don't know.
We're making this up as we go, so
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay.
There's no bad ideas. We're brainstorming right now. Dental insurance goes up there. It's
Okay.
great.
maybe put slash vision, because that will.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah,
gonna come out.
something. It would be nice to see, go through the checklist on it, at least to see if it's affordable, and can we do it, or,
You can really start doing stuff like that.
Okay, we could do
Next time.
We could do a flat raise. Nope. We can go on food.
You said?
Nobody did.
We were not in that part yet.
Okay, good. I was waiting for it.
If I would have booed him, he's close enough to hit me today.
Okay.
We could throw up something that's come up in the past, insurance compensation.
Explain that.
Well, we've talked in the past numerous times, if you don't take the insurance offered by the school district, whether it's a married couple or one only one has the option, or if your spouse has a better plan and you don't take it, find some compensation for that. That's been discussed in the past, but
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put it up there, put it up there. Okay.
Excuse me.
Bless
Let's
you.
see.
Well, one of the options has to be to reimburse or pay for the 2009 step,
Okay.
because that's part of it. We're down to 5 minutes.
Oh, down to 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, do we wanna quickly run through some of those, so we know where we are, or leave it at that for today and come back next time?
Well, I don't think we can go through any of them because we don't know if they're affordable or not, because we don't know the money situation.
Okay, well then let's answer that question before we go. What information do we need to have at the table next time in order to make a good decision? So that everybody feels comfortable and we all have the same information. There's no new money this year, and that's why it's different. In the past, the new money was what was on the table, and there is none. So that doesn't mean that no money can be spent, but it's just not the same situation as far as throwing money on the table.
True.
So I guess what information does the group need?
Because, we have to have
a ballpark
a
figure.
ballpark figure. Because I don't think we can say, okay, money in the base is affordable, how much? I mean, we don't, sure, it's affordable if it's nothing, or $1, but is it affordable if it's $2,000? I guess, I don't know if we can say if it's affordable or not unless I don't know.
Okay.
Dental insurance and vision insurance, to offer that, how much would that be?
Okay,
Especially
that's,
self-
that's
self-
a number we can
self-insured.
definitely find out.
How many people do not take insurance compensation?
This is probably a stupid question, but if there's no new money, how do we pay for all this stuff? Or where does it come from? savings or like, so
Mhm.
this email we, I just did, I honestly, I'm being serious. I didn't know. I was like, because we always have a new number or whatever, you know, so I was not sure.
Yep, it will
Like-
come out of
General fund
Right.
stuff?
the,
That email?
it's usually called the interim fund, but money that was unspent in the past that got rolled over.
Oh, okay.
That's there. That's not part of the, so it's not new money coming in for this year. So
It's
basically, it's
roll
deficit
money.
spending. Mhm.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is why everything is trickier this
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
You know, I don't know if he can, and I don't have that, he
This
sent,
email?
yeah. I couldn't find it when I was looking. The approximate cost, you know, the approximate levy for insurance, or for taxes, property taxes,
Oh, we haven't said it yet.
right? You know, and what the anticipation is going to be, will it be the 112%? And what would that potentially be?
You're trying to get us in trouble early.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, you can look at that. I'm not sure what the comfort level is since that decision hasn't been
Right.
made yet, but we can certainly ask about it.
Well, you know, he's actually got it here. He just handed me, because I was looking for it and I know I'd seen it.
Okay. So I think he sent out a projection assuming that the board would raise the
Would ra-
112%.
Would raise the full 112%.
Right. And do you have a sense of what the on your end, conversely, what the expectation was of your membership?
I
or-
don't know whether we had an expectation,
Okay.
to be honest.
Okay.
We have not sat down and said, we expect so much. You know, I think that we're all fairly intelligent people, and we understand the climate.
I hope you're very intelligent. You're all teachers, so.
Yeah, if you could come back with those things, you know, we could have, get an idea of what.
If we could get a good idea of certain things, if it's
Yeah.
affordable or not.
If it's affordable, yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely. That's
Figure out
gonna
whether
be a big
dental
one.
insurance and vision is affordable.
Okay. Yep, we can take a look at that. Okay. So we wrap it up there for today?
Okay, I'll do my best. The parties began by reading pages 2 and 7 from the training manual. The minutes from April 27th were reviewed and approved. There was a discussion about simplifying the leave language. That was tabled until Twyla could make some changes to it. And there was a discussion about flexibility of leave. There will be a memorandum of understanding regarding that the district will pilot that next year for 1 quarter or 1 trimester. in one elementary building and at Dickinson High. Following that, the modified, simplified leave language was signed as a tentative agreement. There was a discussion about class size and caseload and having a further dialogue during the upcoming school year about the topic, and that topic was removed from further discussion during these negotiations. There was discussion about assigned and unassigned time. That topic will remain on the agenda for future discussion. There was a discussion about the school calendar, and there will be a memorandum of understanding that 3 snow days will be placed into the body of the calendar. A 4th snow day could be added at the end of the calendar. If a 5th snow day is needed, the first option would be a grace day. And moving forward with 6 snow days, they would be added to the end of the calendar. And I think that sums it up.
And then we had a discussion about salaries, or started one.
Oh, yes. There was a discussion about financial topic that included multiple issues.
Financial potpourri.
So next, we would schedule the next meeting date and time.
Next week, I know we have the spring athletic banquet on Wednesday, so we would not be able to meet Wednesday, for sure. Tuesday, 16th?
Potentially last chance for Trinity, but.
Yeah, well,
Works for
ours
me.
Monday,
Yep,
so
works
it's-
Yeah.
Tuesday
So
or
we
Thursday.
could do Tuesday.
Tuesday or Thursday, yeah, I think both work for me too.
Thursday does not work.
Tuesday works for you?
Thursday. The Adult Learning Center graduation is on Thursday.
Right.
Oh, okay.
The Tuesday would work okay for you, Dr. Sullivan?
Well, that'll push our limits in terms of getting everything that we're being asked to do, but, and I don't know Mr. Reeves' schedule for this week. You know, with that personal issue he's dealing with, I don't know how many more days he'll be out this week. But we could set it as a target and
Okay.
we'll do our best.
You gonna be sick of Kim and I if we're here for a board workshop and then a couple hours later we come back? Is 6 p.m. the time that we're looking at again?
Fine by me.
Yeah, that works.
Fine by me.
Okay. Until we're done, so just order pizza and we'll just eat there, okay? I'm kind of serious. I guess we'll see how it goes.
Okay, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 16th at 6 p.m. If there's no other business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.